everybody. Morning. Welcome to the first full day of NACCR 2026. We are so glad that you are here. Before we get started with our first plenary session, I want to provide a few general announcements. First, thank you to our sponsors for their generous support of NACCR. You see the listing of sponsors on the screen. Without them, we would not be able to do so many of the great things that are a part of this conference. Many of these sponsors are also exhibiting as well, and we encourage you to visit the exhibit hall throughout the day. Each morning, drinks and refreshments will be available in the exhibit hall prior to the plenary session and immediately after so that you can refill on your way to breakout sessions. Additionally, lunch will be served Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday in the exhibit hall as well, and lunch will be served on the second floor on Thursday. After going through the line, we encourage you to find a seat here in the plenary room or anywhere you wish throughout the conference space. There will also be an afternoon break with food and beverages available in the exhibit hall from 3 to 4 p.m. That will be another great time to network with exhibitors, sponsors, and conference attendees. You will notice on your table and on the tables in all of the rooms that there is a QR code that directs you to a service we're utilizing called Wordly. If you wish to see a real-time transcript in English for any presentation, you can find that in Wordly. The QR code is specific to each room, which allows you to move around and get the transcript for whichever room you have scanned the code. Finally, the schedule will conclude today with our Education Forum, which is scheduled from 4 to 6 p.m. This is organized in collaboration with SCBNA's Education Committee. The goal of our Education Forum is to connect educators and NACCR attendees seeking to share and gain pedagogical support for fostering outstanding conservation and restoration education practices and provide space for new connections to be made. The forum will include a combination of 5-minute preview talks followed by 1-hour workshop modules, with attendees having the option to attend any workshop of their choosing. We hope that you will join us in this forum later on today. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce today's plenary. The plenary this morning has been organized by the Freshwater Collaborative of Wisconsin. It is my pleasure to welcome to the stage to moderate this plenary session the Executive Director of the Freshwater Collaborative of Wisconsin, Marissa Jablonski.
Good morning, everyone. Great to see you. We're so happy you're here. I hope you're drinking coffee, eating schnecks, all the good stuff that Wisconsin has to offer. So we're here to we have about a 75-minute plenary, and I think it's best if we invite the speakers up. We have collaborative approaches that connect science to conservation and restoration across the universities of Wisconsin. I'm curious, while they walk up, who here can shout out one of the universities of Wisconsin names? Come on, you got this. Stout. Okay, I heard Superior, I heard Stout. Milwaukee. Stevens Point, Madison. Parkside, Whitewater. Green Bay. Eau Claire. Oshkosh. Good job. I think we missed a couple, but I couldn't, I know that they're all here in spirit. So the Freshwater Collaborative is a statewide initiative, and we are funded by the Wisconsin State Legislature. We get funding every 2 years to run this big water vision across Wisconsin. So that includes creating knowledge to solve freshwater issues, recruiting and retaining talented professionals, and improving the well-being of natural ecosystems for all people and with all people. We work on 10 grand water challenges across the state of Wisconsin, focusing mostly on 2, which are agricultural water management and water quality safety and emerging contaminants. And we've funded over 100 grants across the 13 UW universities that you just shouted out. These are K through 12 programs, summer camps. We also train teachers in water education, and we've had contact with more than 4,800 K through 12 students across Wisconsin. We also develop and grow hands-on courses across the 13 universities. It's my experience, probably yours as well, that as soon as a young person gets into a set of waders, into a river, into a stream, into a small lake, and does actual testing in the field and in the lab, they never go back. They're an environmentalist for life, and they're a water scientist. So we're happy to grow those skills. We've about 1,500 students have taken freshwater collaborative courses to date. We also work on undergraduate research and train students in those lab experiences. We know we have quite a few working on PFAS issues, which is an emerging contaminant that everybody here knows about, as one example. And here's some photos of the students in the field doing such work. They also work on phosphorus. This is an issue with water quality and farming all across Wisconsin. And we have over 300 partnerships. So this is corporate partners, agency, government agency, tribal nations, and these are partnerships across the 13 universities. So without a further ado, we'd like to hear from Jessica Orlovsky from Parkside.
Good morning, everyone. Where are my Parkside folks? I heard Parkside mentioned. Anybody Parkside? All right. So I'm Dr. Jessica Orlovsky. I'm an associate professor at UW Parkside. I teach in the Biological Sciences Department, and I'm also the Center for Environmental Studies Director. And I'm really excited to be presenting today at this session. So those of you who may not be from the area, UW Parkside is about halfway between where you are right now and Chicago going straight south. So we represent the southeastern Wisconsin and northeastern Illinois region, and we are a particularly interesting campus in that we have about 700 acres. We are the second smallest UW system by numbers of students, but one of the largest campuses by footprint. And with that comes some additional responsibilities to our, what we call our outdoor laboratories. And you'll see how this is connected to some of the work we do with the Freshwater Collaborative as well. We're also a really devoted member of our community. We're really embedded within our community of both Racine and Kenosha. And we have a Carnegie designation as a community and engaged partnership campus. So those pieces bring us together with our partners, including the Freshwater Collaborative. So one of the pieces that I mentioned is this elaborate natural ecosystem that is our campus. It means that we do ecological restoration and conservation right on our campus and involve our students directly in those activities, whether they are ecosystem-based or species-specific activities. We're also the stewards of 2 state natural areas, the most prominent being Chewacki Prairie State Natural Area, but also Rennick-Pollock State Natural Area. If you are from this region and have not visited us, come on down and take a look. If you are visiting from elsewhere, if you have time to take a little day trip down, it's well worth the trip. Chewacki looks amazing right now. So Chewacki is a Ramsar site, a wetland of international importance, and we're going to come back to that one at the end of my remarks. We also have the Pike River, a tributary that feeds into Lake Michigan, so that comes with some additional responsibilities for monitoring management. And we have a number of federally and state endangered species on our campus and these extended properties, including Blanding's turtles, prairie fringed orchids, rusty patch bumblebees, and a whole host of other things that we're looking after. Can you tell I'm a bug person? A little bit biased. Freshwater. So in terms of our freshwater programming, we have within our environmental studies program a freshwater resources minor and certificate, which are gaining in popularity. And in our geosciences department, students in one of our tracks graduate as a certified hydrologist. With the Freshwater Collaborative, we've been able to augment our course offerings to facilitate this expansion and student interest in freshwater and freshwater careers. We have offered our Fundamentals of Freshwater class continuously, and that was inspired by 5 collaborative campuses coming together to agree on sort of a set of principles and ideas that should be covered within that course. And UW Oshkosh is also offering that course. We also offer a Principles of Freshwater Informatics course at both the undergraduate and graduate level with our partners at the Milwaukee Public Museum, and our Human Interactions with Lake Michigan Coastal Ecosystems course with UW Green Bay and UW Milwaukee. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the research that the Freshwater Collaborative has sort of inspired and supported at our campus. Marissa already mentioned PFAS. I am not a PFAS person, so before I embarrass myself, I'm going to focus on the other 2 projects because those I have slightly more expertise to talk about. Not that PFAS isn't important, just not something that you want to hear from me. So I'm going to talk about the BenthicNet project. This is one of our very collaborative projects. So this is sponsored by the Freshwater Collaborative, and it involves Parkside in addition to UW Milwaukee, or UW Madison and UW Stevens Point, as well as the Milwaukee Public Museum. So this effort is really to bring together all of the aquatic invertebrate information statewide in a clearinghouse, and also to train our students in every aspect of aquatic invertebrate sort of discovery, collection, curation, preservation, and application to freshwater monitoring and management. As freshwater invertebrates, as probably a good number of you know, are the most common biological organism used for monitoring in freshwater systems, in addition to algae, diatoms, and fish. So, in addition to the student aspect where we're training them both in the field and the lab, we also have a public-facing portion of this project that I'm really excited to launch today. So we want these records for these specimens and materials to be publicly available, and we have built, along with the students digitizing and photographing all of these specimens, a portal for you to check out. So you can visit www.benthicnet.org, and you can discover the data that we've been putting together. So this is a Symbiota-hosted platform where you can search locations, you can search taxa, and you can explore the data. So just to give you a quick snapshot, I did a quick search and pulled up some stonefly records. You can download all of the available information, including location information, collector information, and use this. You can also explore by the map. So you can search using the map. You can also explore the records found in a particular place. We're really excited about how this extends to our community members, including the state regulators, our Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, as well as our community science partners, because now those volunteers and surveyors can check what records of these insects and other invertebrates have been found in these locations and track changes over time. So a really public-facing way that we are sharing our information with the broader community. And right now the focus is Wisconsin, but we do have the ability to host data from other places. So if this is something that your area and region is interested in, send me a note. And then finally, I wanted to talk about the Freshwater at UW program. So UW-Madison isn't on the panel, but there is a collaborative effort to bring students in from not just Wisconsin, but across the country to UW-Madison, and then disperse them to the other comprehensive institutions for a summer of research. And at UW Parkside, we have a couple of students, and this is a unique situation because we're being additionally sponsored by the Great Lakes Higher Education Consortium, which brings together students and faculty from around the Great Lakes region, so not just Wisconsin, but Illinois, Michigan, and the Canadian provinces that border the Great Lakes. So we have 2 students at Parkside this summer, one from Ohio and one from Illinois, working at Shiwaukee Prairie to understand the capability of that habitat for hosting the Heinz emerald dragonfly. And that work also involves a great deal of crayfish work. So it's probably a little hard to see, but there's a tiny little baby crayfish in the corner. So we're actually raising crayfish to support a dragonfly. So if you don't know the story of the Heinz emerald dragonfly, it's really cool. They live in the burrows with the crayfish and hope they don't get eaten. So it might not seem like a great idea to raise crayfish for dragonflies, but it works because nature's awesome. So that's just an example. We're working with Fish and Wildlife Service, a bunch of organizations in Illinois to support this work. Ridges in Door County, which is another place to see if you're visiting from out of town. So we've got a lot of exciting things happening at UW Parkside, and we appreciate the Freshwater Collaborative giving us the nudge and the support to get these collaborations going. Thank you.
Next up is Alan Brew from UW Superior.
I'm going to try to skip a slide here if it'll go. So I'm here representing the University of Wisconsin-Superior, which is that little star that you're seeing at the far western end of Lake Superior. So as many of you probably know, Wisconsin actually has shoreline on 2 of the Great Lakes. And UW Superior is the university that represents that whole northern region of Wisconsin and operations on Lake Superior. And just a reminder, so Lake Superior is one of the largest, is the largest of the Great Lakes, also the coldest of the Great Lakes, and holds about 10% of the surface fresh water in the world. So a pretty significant resource and part of our focus because of that. And because of our unique location and because we are one of the few institutions of higher education in northern Wisconsin, we've adopted the focus on the lake as an anchor in our current strategic plan. So a lot of our programs and a lot of our work really focused on recognizing the unique position that we play and the role that we can play in the communities of the north, and then also in caring for Lake Superior and helping to move forward, both in terms of careers and industry focused on the lake, but then also, of course, in caring for this tremendous resource. I work for the Lake Superior Research Institute, which was founded in 1967. And so the Research Institute has had that focus within the university for over 50 years now. And over those years has done a large number of different projects that has really made a difference in the region. Currently, our focus, we have kind of 4 primary focuses now at the Research Institute. The largest by far is the work that we are doing with testing ballast water systems. So as many of you probably know, the exchange of ballast water is one of the primary vectors for moving invasive species into the Great Lakes region. And for many, many years now, Lake Superior Research Institute has been working with engineers and then also with the shipping companies to determine what sort of treatment systems would actually work on the boats and make a difference. And so that started at the bench scale at Lake Superior Research Institute, and then we moved to dry land but large full-scale operation on one of the piers in Superior. So we're able to run thousands, millions of gallons of water through these systems and then evaluate their effectiveness. And now we're in a 3rd phase of that research where we're actually working with systems installed on the vessels. And so we have a couple of teams of scientists and engineers that actually go out to the vessels when they're uptaking ballast water, testing what's coming into the boats, and then they follow the ship to where they release the ballast water and again test the water as it's leaving the ships after it's been treated. Keeping all of that data, the Lake Superior Research Institute is neutral in this context, but just providing data, again, to the engineers and the companies about what's working and what isn't and where. And so that's our largest project and really pretty significant. And we still have the Lakeshore facility as well. So we've been doing testing. We continue to do testing at that scale as well, in addition to the ships. In addition to that, we also provide water testing services, especially for rural residents. Many of the residents of northern Wisconsin get their water from wells, and so we provide testing services for wells and other sorts of water quality in that way. This summer, we have a couple of researchers doing a lot of invasive survey analysis actually on trails throughout Wisconsin, so a lot of the state parks and other places actually going out and surveying presence of invasive species. And then the fourth category, which I'll focus on for the rest of my talk, is we are restarting an education program focused on Lake Superior at the Lake Superior Research Institute. So we used to, for many years, had a boat program that allowed us to put people on Lake Superior. The boat aged out, and so that program ended about 15 or 20 years ago, and now we're going to be restarting that educational program. So the heart of, I'm going to back up here and do one more. So part of the challenge of putting people on Lake Superior is that it is the largest and the coldest of the Great Lakes. And this quote from Bart Sutter, who's a local writer in Superior, really kind of captures the relationship that many people have with Lake Superior, which is that it's a glancing relationship. So many, many people who live along the shore of Lake Superior never have an opportunity to actually spend time on the water. To do so safely typically requires fairly expensive equipment and a significant degree of know-how and experience, and that is often inaccessible to folks. And so one of our goals with the education program is to remove some of those barriers and to make it possible for many more people to have a direct relationship with Lake Superior and with that special water in general. And so the tool for that we've been working on for a number of years now is a new research vessel, education and research vessel called Sadie Ann. She was custom built, was completed a couple of years ago at a small shipyard in New Orleans, and really neat in that the whole boat build was funded by a philanthropic family who have roots in Superior, who had experienced what I described before, which is they grew up on the shore of Lake Superior, had many friends there who never had an opportunity to be on the lake. And so they are very committed to making it more possible for people to have that relationship. And so their foundation funded the build of this boat. It was a custom build, and it was very intentionally designed to fit between existing resources on Lake Superior. So in Duluth Superior, which is where we're located, we actually have two large research vessels, the Blue Heron, which is operated by the University of Minnesota Duluth, and then the Lake Explorer 2, which is operated by the EPA. Those are dedicated research vessels able to do deep water research and work. There's also another vessel of that size called the Kai, which is the United States Geological Survey located in Ashland. But none of those boats are certified for passengers and usually can only take a fairly small crew. And then we have a bunch of smaller kind of runabout research vessels operating on Lake Superior doing nearshore water work. But what we were missing was a vessel that was capable of being on the big lake, but also capable of taking larger groups of people, especially classroom-sized groups of folks. And so Sadie Ann was designed to do that. She'll hold about or be certified to take about 45 passengers, a certified passenger vessel, so we can take groups, classes of 20, 30 students out at once. And then also the capabilities of a light research vessel. So we have an A-frame, we've got two labs on the main deck, and then the second deck is sort of an enclosed multi-purpose room, if you will, on the boat that will allow us to have people out in a variety of conditions. In addition to the lake itself, one of the challenges of education on Lake Superior is that it's often cold and windy and wet, and those aren't always the best learning environments for people. We'll be able to move people in and out of conditioned spaces on Sadie Ann and really give them a positive experience on the lake, which is the goal. So really neat project. The one other piece which has been challenging, as it turned out, we didn't expect it to be so challenging, is that CDN is also a parallel hybrid drive propulsion system, which means that we can run diesel or electric. A lot of boats will run diesel generators that then run electric motors, but ours works much more like a Prius or a hybrid car. And the beauty of that, we hope, is that it will allow us to loiter on station using electric without diesel engines running, but then have the power of the diesel to do transits back and forth. As many of you know, the batteries are not yet at a place to operate fully for a boat, but okay, super. So at any rate, that has been challenging with our regulatory things, but the boat is finished and just passed all of its inspections, so it'll be coming to Superior soon. All right. School programs will be one of the primary focuses, so a lot of K-12 education with the boat, which we're really excited about. And then for the Freshwater Collaborative, we have a grant that's focused on workforce development and then our university students. And so that program has kind of two components, one of which has already started, which is these workforce development seminars. And so the focus here is making people more aware of maritime work and jobs, both in research, but also on the commercial side. And so we ran 3 over the past year. One focuses on transportation and logistics, so moving cargo back and forth in the Great Lakes and the numerous jobs that are available there. The second one focused on diving and the different careers with diving, so both commercial diving, research, and rescue diving. And then the third one was focused on water treatment, and so we partnered with both Duluth and Superior to have that presentation. And then it'll be UW classes at the end. And with all of our programs, one of our biggest focuses is really introducing people to this sort of magnificence of Lake Superior and its wonder. So, thank you.
Up next is Emily Tyner from UW Green Bay.
Morning, everybody. Thanks. I heard Green Bay shout-outs. A few people know Green Bay. We're going to be moving from Superior to Northeast Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. Lots of you probably know us for our football team. We are also sitting on a significant freshwater estuary, one of the largest freshwater estuaries in the world, in fact, that connects us to Lake Michigan. And I'll be talking about a funding we have from Freshwater Collaborative of Wisconsin to run our K-12 education programs. This wouldn't be possible without Freshwater Collaborative funding. We're in our, I think, sixth year of doing this, and our ultimate goal with our programs is to create this pipeline, a workforce development pipeline, training K-12 students in water science, and so they have a handle of what water science means, connecting them to universities of Wisconsin water programs, both my colleagues here, their programs that they're offering at university level and across the state, and ultimately building out Wisconsin's water workforce. So we have students that are skilled and ready to enter a diverse range of careers across the state in water. Many partners across the bottom of the screen, but critically Freshwater Collaborative of Wisconsin. Within that pipeline goal, we have a program focused on connecting people to wetlands and water. That's the overall theme of the work we do. And within that, we're trying to introduce K-12 students to career opportunities in water science, and then also help their educators, the ones that teach those students, how to ways to integrate water and wetlands into learning spaces if they don't already have that kind of water science training. We have 2 key audiences, K-12 students and their educators, as I mentioned. And within our K-12 students box, 3 key programs that I'm going to be talking about that we're really proud of and want to highlight here. Our Lower Fox River Watershed Monitoring Program focused on schools and students. Wild Rice in the Classroom, also focused on kind of high school and middle school students. And then a newish high school scholar research program to get high school students out doing research with faculty and staff. And then for their educators, we do workshops, field experiences, send out supply kits and resources. Wednesday of this week, we're taking out 18 educators on a kayak trip on one of our rivers in Northeast Wisconsin to expose them to local water resources and meet water professionals they can collaborate with on their teaching. So the kind of key linchpin of our programs is this Lower Fox River Watershed Monitoring Program. This is a 23-year university effort, so it kind of predates our Freshwater Collaborative funding, but Freshwater Collaborative has kept it alive. This connects schools and classrooms to local impaired waterways. They essentially adopt a stream close to their school, usually one they can walk to, and their students are involved in 3 times a year. They go out and do water quality sampling. The whole program initiated because of litigation with paper mills along the Fox River and the damage assessments to clean up the Fox River, which was a $1.5 billion cleanup effort. Money was directed to education. It came to our university, and then we used this to start this K through 12 education program. We now have about 13 schools that participate every year, about 200 students per year, and they come out to a symposium every spring we host where they present their research that they're finding on their local stream to local natural resource managers and the other students in the program. From this watershed monitoring program, we had interest in schools and students in connecting to active wild rice restoration that's been happening in Lower Bay. Manoomin, a native plant, is slowly being restored in the Bay of Green Bay, and students and schools and teachers were really interested in having a connection point to these active restoration projects. So we developed this Wild Rice in the Classroom program, where in this fall, students from seed grow in buckets and with lights inside, grow wild rice. In the spring, they come out with us to transplant those wild rice into local wetlands and estuaries. And then in the fall, they join us to help with seeding. Because of active restoration in the Bay, now we're finally able to have our own native seed. We used to have to get it from lakes in northern Wisconsin, but the students are able to throw seed out from plants that have been growing in the Bay themselves, and that's an exciting thing to see alongside these wild rice restoration projects. As we've developed this Wild Rice in the Classroom program, we noticed that we were missing, we were getting asked about the indigenous and tribal connection to wild rice, and we wanted to bring more of that story into the work we are doing with schools. So starting in 2024, we hired a tribal engagement coordinator that's been able to help us work really closely with tribes across the state, specifically the Oneida Nation and the Menominee Nation, which have both physical locations on the Bay and oral histories that connect to legacies on the Bay. And that has extended our learning and our connection to bring in some of these historical stories and connection points with tribes. Manoomin, or wild rice, has existed on the Bay for millennium, as long as we've had tribal partners there cultivating it and working on it. It's an indigenous plant, and it's been a staple of diets and appears in creation stories for our tribal partners. So we're really excited and happy to have this connection that brings in some of the cultural side of wild rice. And then our signature program is something we're really proud of, is a high school research program. We noted that there was really a demand in Northeast Wisconsin for programs that would connect high school students to research and keep students local in the summer if they have other jobs or family commitments. So again, because of Freshwater Collaborative support, we are able to offer this paid summer research experience for high school students, where they're partnered with university staff or now with partner organizations in our community for a whole summer of research where they're participating in labs, working with postdocs, working with grad students. As part of the program, we also offer bi-weekly field trips, because we know that students want to learn more than just what the kind of lab or field skills, but be exposed to water careers across our region. And then we also have an emphasis on science communication, with students presenting final posters and participating in symposia across the academic year as they share the work they've learned over the summer. Last summer was our 5th summer in the program, and I pulled some quotes from our student evaluations and pictures, and it's really been exciting to see the growth of this program over time, both the growth of students. We've had students that have come back. Like this year, we have 16 students, and 5 of them are returning. We've had students apply from other programs, other Freshwater Collaborative programs, to come to this program after they've graduated from other things that you'll hear about today, and they've gone on to UW system programs as well in water. It's been definitely a win-win for mentors who get a connection to high school students who are studying water in the state, and then can keep in touch with them for when they have jobs opening and internships. So we started in 2022 with 2 high school students, mostly recruited from our colleagues, their kids. We didn't have much growth at the time. This summer we had 54 applicants for 16 spots, including from around the state and out of state. We don't provide housing, so we're really kind of at the growth, the maximum that we can take from outside of our region. But as we've grown over time, we've had to bring in outside partners to help us offer mentorship opportunities. And this has been great because not all students want to go into research necessarily, but we have land trusts involved, nature centers, so high school students can get experience in land management or education outreach to expand the skills they're getting while they're still in high school. As I mentioned before, exploring water careers is also really important. We want to highlight the breadth of experiences students can have across the water sector. So we take students out on these field trips. We've gone with water utilities. We've done work with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on bird restoration, working with the DNR on native mussel surveys. So students have the chance to meet each other and build a sense of a cohort, but also meet water professionals from outside the kind of scope they're working in. Ultimately, our goal for the next 5 years is, one, to expand programs in students and schools to help connect students across the state by working with UW Extension and our other folks across the steering committee, our other UW system schools. We want to integrate with a new National Estuary and Research Reserve that's coming to the Bay of Green Bay, a federal state program focused on estuary science, and then really enhance and further our connections with our First Nations partners and integrate First Nations perspectives into the work we're doing. The picture on the left is from June. This is part of some freshwater collaborative funding we got to bring educators together. We met up in Lake Superior in Duluth and had a teacher training workshop where we brought teachers from Huron, Ohio, Duluth Superior region, and the Green Bay region to integrate learning across the Great Lakes and learn from each other as classroom teachers teach about Great Lakes in their classroom setting. We hope to do many more programs like that to kind of bring this Great Lakes cohort together and learn together. That's all I have, but thank you, and happy to talk more if you want to partner if you're in Wisconsin on this later. Thanks.
Great, and now we welcome Greg Kleinheinz of UW Oshkosh.
Thank you. You can't start your timer until you sit down. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Marissa, the organizing committee, and everyone for showing up after, I'm sure, a night of networking today. So it's my pleasure to be here today to talk about what we call our Environmental Research and Innovation Center, or the ERIC. The ERIC is really unique in the UW system. It provides outreach and collaborative opportunities for communities to interface with the UW. One thing, the UW is a large institution, almost a couple 100,000 students, and the community in the state says, you know, we really have difficulty accessing it, and so what we wanted to do is make a forward-facing front door. And so sometimes that means collaboration with us, and sometimes it means collaborating with others. We have 5 full-time staff. We hire between 14 during the academic year, and our max was 78 students in the summertime, and only about 20 to 25% of those are Oshkosh students. So I'll put a shameless plug in later if you have any students that want a summer job later. But we call it in Wisconsin, we call it the Wisconsin idea, and that was a term coined by Charles Van Eys in the early 1900s as president of UW-Madison, where he said the good works of the university should extend to the borders of the state. And I'm a Wisconsin native. I believe in that profusely, and that's one thing that we try to exercise at the ERIC Lab. We have multiple locations, so the yellow circle you see there is our main lab in Oshkosh, kind of right on Lake Winnebago, a large inland freshwater system. We also have labs in Sturgeon Bay, Manitowoc, and in northern Wisconsin. Wisconsin has about 15,000 lakes, a lot of water resources. And so we do things related to water, but other sort of environmental and conservation types of programs. We are a fully certified laboratory, which makes us unique by DNR, EPA, DATCAP, CDC, et cetera. So students get a little bit different experience than working in Dr. So-and-so's lab on a research project. While valuable, they learn a whole nother level of sometimes unrecognizable QA, QC with those types of things. All of our students are generally paid, I think about 95% of them. In the summer, they get free housing and travel reimbursement. But we also do have a science and engineering scholar program, so if they're interested in taking the experience for credit, they have the opportunity to do that as well. We provide services for counties, local municipalities. Grandma and grandpa can walk in and get their well water tested if they want to. And so we have a lot of interactions with people throughout the state. We do things related, whoops, I guess it's just going forward without me. We do a lot of things related to things that are special or specific to each community where we're embedded with. And part of the opportunities we provide are those things that have been spurred by the Freshwater Collaborative. That includes our student training opportunities, so students actually come and work at our lab. I noticed FAU was one of the sponsors for this meeting. We've had students from Florida, Clemson, New York, California this summer. So they come from really all over to work with us. The Great Lakes are a great place to be in the summertime. And so they get an opportunity to work in an environment that's a little bit different than the traditional academic lab. We provide what we call our Water Technology Enterprise Program, which partners faculty, students with businesses that have questions or problems that they maybe can't address as quickly as they'd like to, and we partner with them. We have collaborative research training opportunities, and then again, they get to work in a lab that's a little bit different. And all of the work that we do is also field portable. So we do a lot in the laboratory, but we're also out in the field quite a bit. And I'll show you a little bit of that as we go through this. So I'm going to go kind of quickly through some of our major projects that we're working on today. I'll mention one that I probably should have put a slide in before. One of our big ones is related to biomethane potential testing. So we do a lot of if it's any sort of organic waste product you've heard of, we've probably tested it, including salmon from a fishing village in Alaska that sat in a UPS truck and boat for 2 weeks, which was fabulous by the time it got to the lab. But all sorts of different things. We run a German DIN method, which is really the gold standard nationally, and so students get to look at that. We have a dry anaerobic digestion pilot system, so a little different type of anaerobic digestion, sort of organic degradation system. Wet pilot units like the big dairy continuously stirred systems, a variety of sort of customized technologies that we can do customized R&D for companies and clients, literally from the Yukon to Central America. We do ASTM compostability testing. So on the aerobic side, the sun chip bag that degrades in the environment, we can do those. And we actually used to sell a product called Titan Gold. So we take everything from food waste and agricultural byproducts and actually produce a saleable, marketable, and bagged biosolid material that we were able to sell. So the lab does lab, pilot, and field studies. So the lab and staff and students that work with us get an opportunity to put their hands on things on the bench, test tubes, mad scientists, a little bit of jar A and jar B, but they're also out in the field and actually applying that. So it's a really unique opportunity for students to take foundational skills in all sorts of science disciplines. We are not discriminatory in terms of what their background is, and they get to apply that to real world situations and real problems that people bring to us. We have well water community testing programs. One of those, the Peninsula of Dore, that little thing that juts out in Lake Superior. I don't want to be like a Michigan person, right? But it's that little peninsula that sticks out there. And we do community-wide well testing programs and things where we'll do a program of 300 to 400 well tests in 24 hours. We're doing microplastics testing. You heard about PFAS. Microplastics, of course, another emerging contaminant. We do that in well water. We also do it in surface water. And then we are, we're not a full service laboratory, but we offer a variety of different testing. So students get a broad range of experience from drinking water tests, so anything that a public water system might have to test for, arsenic, lead, fecal coliforms, E. coli coliform, nitrate, etc. Surface water, again, physical, chemical, and biological contaminants in there as well. And then what we call environmental, and you can read the list and kind of imagine all the different things we test for in the environment, and I'm sure many of you have done as well. My favorite one on this list is inerts, and that might be a little bit different one. That basically means you send us your garbage and the students pick through it, then anything won't biologically degrade. We don't have a lot at the university, but we have a lot of human capital, so that seems to be a less expensive way for people to do it, and the students get to really start at the bottom, if you will. I never really thought PhD would be piled higher and deeper, but that's really turned out to be true for me. Things like marine debris has been a focus of ours for the last several years. I didn't even know that was a big deal in the Great Lakes, but 22 million pounds of plastic. And that includes, sort of this regional approach that we've taken where we don't have enough debris like, Caribbean islands where we just have piles. But we do have a marine debris boat, and so that, I was going to call it a trash boat, but I'm told I'm not supposed to do that. But the marine debris vessel will go out and collect large items. You can notice from this picture, we have a couple aquatic drones that get deployed from the deck of this or from a small trailer. They can, sort of pilot around people's $1 million boats in the marinas. We don't trust our students driving the trash boat with. But essentially, it's removing a lot of that, large marine debris. I guess it's going to pull all of them up. We also have a sand drone. It's called a B-Bot, which is sponsored by Meyer and the Council for the Great Lakes Region. So that intercepts marine debris on the shoreline before it goes back into the water. We're doing cyanobacterial toxin research, looking at spatial and temporal distribution of microcystin primarily in the Great Lakes where we work, and then also in Lake Winnebago. A variety of microbiological testing, everything from qPCR to we do Legionella work, salmonella pathogens, you name it. Wastewater analysis, so if you can imagine it. And so forth. And so one of the things, that I think hopefully that I can get across here, not only with the Freshwater Collaborative and my partners here and colleagues from the other UW campuses, but the other partners around Wisconsin and North America that we partner with, we couldn't do this without them. And this is where I put my shameless plug in for all of you. So we start hiring students for the fall in October. And so if anybody has a student that's interested in a summer program in Wisconsin, sitting on the shores of Lake Michigan, for example, our groups in Manitowoc and Door County this summer don't have any Oshkosh students. So they're all students we've sort of imported, which I think has been great. So I think this summer we have 11 different campuses representative. We have partners that approach us all the time and say, hey, I think that's my 9-minute, I got 1 minute left. I'm going to use every second. But I think that that's really an important thing that our students, both our students at UW Oshkosh and other students, gain from these experiences. No matter where you're coming from, you're going to work with a pretty diverse in terms of academic background, but also personal background in an area of the country that's pretty outstanding to work in the summer. So happy to answer questions later about any of those programs. So thank you.
And last but not least, Liz Sutton from UW Milwaukee.
It's a busy day today. You get to see a bunch of us. So we are located, you're here right in Milwaukee, and we have been working on a variety of things, and so we'd like to share that. And really it goes with, if I can advance it. Am I doing it right? Oh. Helps if you know how to work the remote. So we really have two missions. Of course, we are an education organization. We're training next generation of freshwater scientists and professionals. But really, our research has been longest standing. We've been doing about 60 years worth of research on Lake Michigan and Great Lakes throughout the world and freshwater systems. And so we're going to talk a little bit, our research has been known in a variety of ways. Lots of focus on the human and ecosystem connections. So a lot of how do we protect our drinking water? How do we track different diseases like COVID and influenza and RSV through our wastewater? How are we looking at our infrastructure to help better that process so that we can have safe drinking water for everyone? A lot of work, of course, on management of the Great Lakes and invasive species. How do we really make sure that the system is working as well as possible? We are also the home for the Center of Water Policy for the state of Wisconsin. So that's a lot of work working with things, especially right now, like data centers, but it could have been things like the Great Lakes Compact and all of that type of thing. Our researchers there are really engaged in working on that type of stuff. But I'm going to be focusing a little more on our connections to the community. That's what I do a lot of. I'm really a science communicator to share all of the information of the work of our teachers or our faculty and students. We have many programs connecting to K-12 students. I host one of the regional competitions for the National Ocean Sciences Bowl. It seems a little surprising, but in the history of that competition, we are the ones who have won the most in a consecutive row from Wisconsin, which is pretty exciting. But our students have always worked really well with that. We also host one of the regional sea perch competitions, which is an underwater robotics or ROV competition, where middle and high school students are building their own vehicles and then using it in a competition. We have summer camps that we do. We bring students onto our research vessel when we can, the NACCR, and we try to meet them out in the field at their local waterways. In this area, it's really interesting because the subcontinental divide is not very far from here. It's just in Brookfield. And that way we've done some work where we've followed from one school in particular sits right on the border. So the front of their school, their water all goes eventually to the Mississippi River. The back of their school, it all goes to Lake Michigan. So we've done a lot of projects with that school to kind of get them to help understand that. So we're always trying to work with programs with K-12 students. We do a lot connecting with educators and trying to train them to make sure that they're better able to help their students understand more the water careers and possibilities in water. That might be getting them some really good immersive experiences on the research vessel. It's sometimes working with them on their curriculum, helping them with new ideas, just like role modeling different activities and things. So we try to really connect with educators to help them better understand how to do their work. Our students are bachelor's, master's, and PhD. We really try to focus on helping them be better science communicators as well. One of the things that's really important, if you're a scientist, but if you can't share your data and your information and make it valuable to someone, whether it's looking at the impact of that in your life or understanding how that tool is used, then your science isn't doing as much as it could be. So we want to make sure our students get an opportunity to really try these types of things out. So we have lots of opportunities for them to get that chance to go and talk to the community, talk to K-12 students, and really practice those skills, do poster sessions, that type of thing. It might be at the Wisconsin State Fair, it might be a local science museum, it just kind of depends what might be going on. Including a lot of open houses. This has been one of our greatest ways to really connect to the community. We do some for really specific reasons, but our favorite is every September. So if you're in the area at all, Milwaukee in general, the last weekend in September does a huge doors open event where all kinds of buildings have kind of behind the scenes tours and stuff like that. We are part of a huge festival that weekend on the Sunday. It's called Harbor Fest, and it's a large street festival right in front of our building with food and vendors and all of those things. River Edge Nature Center, which is currently raising little fry sturgeon to be released. They release all of their sturgeon that weekend into our slip. And then we have a open house with all of our faculty and students. So it's a wonderful opportunity for those students and our faculty to get a chance to explain their research directly to the community and answer questions and things. We usually get about 2,000 people who come through the building in that 4-hour time span. The event itself is a little bigger, but it's really one of our favorite times of year. And then we do a lot of work trying to share the science that we do with our community. The picture with the buoy system, many of our buoys are part of the GLOSS network, the Great Lakes Observing System. If you're not familiar, it's a wonderful thing to check out. GLOS.org. Any of the buoys in the entire Great Lakes that are connected to that system, you can go and click right on the buoy and find out all of the water quality, air quality, temperature, the chemistry of the water, all of those types of things. And it's really useful. Lots of researchers use it. But the main users of our buoys are all people in the public. They're people who like to fish, people who like to sail, and people who like to surf. So you get this really huge opportunity to connect to them through that way. We also have done a really large project on mapping the harbor habitat for fish. And as we're finishing that up, we will have every harbor mapped from Algoma, which is at the base of the Door Peninsula, down to Kenosha, so all along the entire coast of Wisconsin from the Door Peninsula down. Every harbor gets mapped. We do large community maps of it, and then we work with partners and community groups and stakeholders in that area to really connect to using that science for their work. And then we do a lot of beach monitoring as well, so we can help make sure people can use the water safely. We are, just really trying to connect all of the stuff we do to the community. Water is such a huge resource. We want to make sure they understand that connection. So we try to help them work through keeping that healthy waters and kind of the thriving communities together. And lastly, I wanted to talk just a minute. The Freshwater Collaborative has put together, we've kind of joined this huge outreach network. You've heard about a lot of great programs here. In the past, we've all kind of been working separately on our different outreach activities. And so through funding with Freshwater Collaborative of Wisconsin, we've been able to create this network so we can all share resources, we share ideas. It's a really good opportunity to connect to each of the other universities in a bit of a different way. And we try to focus on 4 outreach areas: classroom visits by any of the UW experts, students coming onto our campuses and how do we best do that, educational programming that we offer through a variety of ways, and then you've heard about also a lot of research partnerships with our researchers directly working with schools. So all of those things, we're really trying to bring all of the groups together to create this network to help the communities understand more about the work that we do.
Well, thanks, everyone. So the last slide is how to connect with the Freshwater Collaborative. We have a website, freshwater.wisconsin.edu, and we ask that you please visit that website and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll be able to hear about information, experiences, engagement opportunities, partnership opportunities, all across Wisconsin throughout the year. And that newsletter is quarterly, so we won't, bomb your inbox. And if you have any questions or thoughts, please don't hesitate to email us. So with about 15 minutes left and 5 different universities at the table and the Freshwater Collaborative here, We'd love to open it up to questions and answer, what do you think about when, you just heard us all speak about collaborative opportunities and communication and K through 12 outreach and all the things you just heard. What are your questions? So we open it up to you. Yeah, in the middle. All right, so did everybody hear it? First is about chloride. So how much is salt, basically, right? Chloride affecting our freshwater systems in Wisconsin because we're a cold weather state. It's really interesting. I just spoke with an engineering group in the greater Milwaukee area that's also in the greater Midwest that was talking about designing for sunlight in the winter in cold weather states, and they are trying to integrate into the university system so that our designs completely change so we use less chloride. Also, we have an organization out of Madison called SaltWise, but otherwise I open it up to our panel.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think each part of the state has, on the chloride question, I think each part of the state has a little bit different approach. I know certainly where I am in sort of the central eastern part of Wisconsin, there's a lot of concern for that. So rolled salt gets, the brunt of a lot of the, accusations in terms of chloride input into those environments. But the single biggest treatment for water in Wisconsin is water softeners. And each of those most of those are, people that use those are not on municipal wastewater. And so they're also discharging significant amounts. If you drive around Wisconsin and go to any Quick Trip or wherever, it's literally tons and tons of salt that people buy year round as well. I know some municipalities have also now adopted, instead of sort of rolled salt, sort of just randomly scattering that material all over, to use brine. So it seems counterintuitive if you're not from here, even those of us that were from here when you first saw it. So you'll have these big county trucks drive around with a brine solution, like basically big tanks on the back, and they spread it. And it's a much more efficient way of putting that sort of anti-freezing material on the road instead of just pounds of solid salt material. So there isn't any sort of coordinated impact or effort statewide, but there are a number of people, the group in Madison. I know we have a couple groups in our area that are interested, mostly fishing clubs and things like that are really concerned about that. So there are some things, but there's no real statewide kind of initiative. And I think you see more of that in the more urban areas. Like where we are, it's about 1.3 million people from Green Bay to Fond du Lac, so it's pretty population dense, for Wisconsin anyway, Madison and the Milwaukee area. But if you get up to northern Wisconsin, there's not a lot of population density where this seems to be less of a concern.
Also worth mentioning, Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District and Milwaukee River Keepers, they do education around maintenance personnel around the city to educate maintenance personnel in their salt applications to minimize it. Yeah, I don't know if you know, but 1 cup of salt, boy, I'm on the spotlight now, should cover 10 squares of sidewalk. And if you're from a cold area, I don't know anybody who uses that little salt. We're more afraid of liability. So personally, I've taken to using sand on my home because all we want is people not to slip, right? We don't need to melt everything. We just need to not slip and be sued. So it's an interesting question. Your second question was about eDNA, but can you... Okay, let me see if I can say this on the mic. So catalogs of eDNA, have they improved so that we get a bigger picture of water quality and contaminants.
Yeah, previously the catalogs were not good in many places.
Okay.
They built essentially through sampling, they built these catalogs that could better understand the DNA.
Okay.
Detect it better through the different protocols. So now we're seeing it in the air more and more. So I was curious if you're being to pair eDNA work with your other advanced sampling programs.
Do any of you know about that yet?
Well, I think I can answer that question on eDNA. So one of the things I didn't talk about in our group was we've done about 60 beach restorations, and a lot of that was E. coli source tracking and monitoring. I know the group at UW-Milwaukee also has a pretty large group, Sandra McClellan's group. And at the time, we were using library-dependent sort of comparative methods. You know, is the DNA we're finding at a beach, is it from a seagull, goose, beaver, you know, wherever? All of that information was, you know, was publicly available. At least in Wisconsin, it's kind of shifted, I think, a little bit. A lot of the source tracking we're doing today is not library dependent. It's, you know, some people are using ddPCR. Sandra, I think, is using like Bacteroides, so, you know, very specific bovine or human specific Bacteroides. So at least in Wisconsin, I'm not aware of a lot of groups that are using that for comparative purposes in my area, which is sort of Great Lakes nearshore, sort of beach E. coli source identification types of methods, but I don't know if some of my colleagues have done some other things.
Okay, that's good. Thanks. All right, other questions? Yes, over here. Okay. All right, the question is the BBOT a locally owned patented technology, or could it be applied to other shorelines across, not just Wisconsin, but let's say, the world?
Yeah, no, the BBOT is not proprietary in any way. There is a BBOT in Wisconsin. We have one. There's one actually here in Milwaukee at the Milwaukee River Keepers. There's some in Michigan, Ohio. So when Meyer started this funding of that program, I think they bought 5 initial ones, and now they've bought some other ones. So they actually rotate around areas in the Great Lakes. And so there are a number of those. And so if somebody, you know, Greg Klein at UW Oshkosh, it's not hard to find my email. I'd be happy to put you in contact with the people for the Council for the Great Lakes region. But no, they're essentially a technology that's off the shelf that was adapted to sort of the, you know, sort of near shore beach environment. There's a lot of larger beach groomers that have been out there, and they're used in Florida and other places. This one's a little bit smaller, but it's also remote controlled. Well, students love it because it's fun. And in the wintertime, to that question, we can hook a sled up to the back of it. Anyway, so no, there's nothing proprietary in any way about it.
I'm going to interrupt just a little bit too, because the Milwaukee Riverkeeper one, if you're here this week, it might be out on one of the beaches, so you might get a chance to see it. Just, you know, that would be an opportunity to see it in action. I don't know their schedule, but you might get a chance to.
And then the question about Sadian. Okay, so I'm just going to reword it, just to repeat so the whole room can hear it. So is the Sadian going to be focused, is it region-wide, or who's the focus to be in the classroom, or is it just Wisconsin? Yeah.
Yeah, so initially it will be regional. We don't have overnight capacity on the boat, and so it's mostly day trips. And so we'll start kind of focus Superior and the western end of Lake Superior. Those are the school districts and folks that we'll focus on. But we have the potential to, you know, to go on all of the Great Lakes. And so down the road and with appropriate funding, we'd certainly be open to going to other locations or to having folks come to us to be able to use it that way too.
That's great. Okay, other questions? Going once. There we go. Great, please do. That's fine. Thanks. That's great. That reminds me, so much of my job as the executive director of the Freshwater Collaborative is translating these stories across to our funders, which is the Wisconsin State Legislature, and reminding our policymakers in Wisconsin that we sit on overlapping watersheds. So if you zoom out on our great state of Wisconsin, as if you're an eagle flying really, really high, you see 3 major watersheds: Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, and the Great Mississippi River. But if you zoom in, you see hundreds, thousands actually, of small watersheds, very small lakes and ponds and rivers and streams. And what we're working on currently is a way of describing this to legislators, you know, in our Assembly and our Senate, so that they fully understand that what affects one watershed definitely affects another, and how we have this amazing university system made of 13 universities and 23 campuses and thousands of interested student minds who just want to get out there and study and learn and do. And so pulling all of that together so that we can work with the water and with the land and with the air and stop this stuff where we're working against it. Yeah. Any other questions? We have a few minutes left, but it doesn't look like it to me. Going once, going twice. Great, you get 3 minutes extra. Oh, we got a question. Let's hit it. Yes. Oh, right on. Sorry. Oh, my apologies. I did that with every other question except for yours. I was so in tune. I'm sorry. So the suggestion is, instead of using for workforce development, we use the phrase pipeline to jobs, and that encompasses recruiting K through 12 students to study water, then retaining them at the university level through hands-on learning in the field and in the lab, and then funding or helping placement in internships that lead to jobs. This person suggested that we call that the watershed to jobs. So engaging people to enter into the watershed to jobs. So it's the same, overlapping K through 12, undergrad, internship leading to jobs, but it's called a watershed rather than a pipeline. Yes. Right. To repeat, she said that she loves that, and because it takes from a built-in metaphor to a natural system metaphor, taking in the ecosystem, using your words as well. So thank you so, so much, and we sincerely hope that you greatly enjoy the conference today and this entire week, and that you get to see that bead bot on the shores of Lake Michigan. Yes, and the panel will be in and out of sessions today, and a couple of them will be here all week. So please say hello and strike up conversations. Thanks again.